Christian church family. I'm pretty loud about that. I might need to move into it. It just feels like it's been a long time since we've all been together on Sunday. It's actually been a couple months for me, so it's great to be with family. And of course, normally we meet in house churches on Sunday, and we've been working through what book? Matthew. Absolutely. And our theme for the year is Treasure Hunt. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. What do you hunt? What do you pursue? You know, we're going to spend the year talking about this because it's so easy. We know what we should pursue. We know what we would like to pursue. But the real question has to start with, what do I really pursue? What do I hunt? What do I go after? Because we started in the book of Matthew. And last week we did chapters 5 and 6 in house church. And today we're going to do Matthew 7 and 8. What is Matthew 5, 6, 7? The Sermon on the Mount. Everybody knows the Sermon on the Mount. Now, I want you to, for a minute, picture yourself as Jesus. For some of you, it's easier than others. So you are the Son of God. You have come down to earth, and this is arguably the most famous sermon ever. So you are now planning to preach your most famous sermon ever. That will be preached and taught and talked about forever. What would your Sermon on the Mount look like? What would you preach? I think that if you were honest with yourself and you took the time, you would preach about you and your heart and what you really believe and what is really most important to you. And that's the Sermon on the Mount. It is the heart of God. It is the heart of Jesus. And it's in a practical, tangible, physical form that Jesus came so that we could experience, so that we could witness, so that we could see the heart of God. So the Sermon on the Mount, what's the problem with the Sermon on the Mount? For anybody that has read it multiple times, we can sometimes feel very defeated when going through the Sermon on the Mount. Because there's a lot of do-nots in the Sermon on the Mount. Do not commit adultery. Cool, got that one. Do not lust. Dang it. Do not lie. Oh, pretty good. Get your yes be yes and your no be no. And that's what the Sermon on the Mount does. Do not worry. Do not be self-righteous. Do not. And we can hear all these do nots. And is that really what the Sermon on the Mount is about? Is the Sermon on the Mount, is the heart of God about do not? I think many of us think it is. Because that's what we pursue. And that's what we can hunt. Is trying to be perfect. And trying to do this and trying to do that. Or not to do this and not to do that. What's the key to the Sermon on the Mount? There's two main keys. Chapter 8, which is after the Sermon on the Mount. We'll come to that. That actually is really where we should be spending more time. And the other key is the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. The Beatitudes. And we'll get to that. But what happens when you focus on chapters 5 and 6? When you read chapters 5 and 6 and discussed it as house church, how did you feel? I'm confident that many of us felt we don't measure up. Many of us felt this is really difficult. Many of us felt that I just can't do this. Do not worry. Do not be anxious. Trust in me, basically. God says. See, this is where chapter 7 really starts to take hold. Because I think in our hearts, we stop somewhere along the way in the Sermon on the Mount. where the sledding is just too tough for us. And then we do this. Matthew 7. It says, do not judge, and you too will be judged. For in the same way you judge others, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye? Well, that's a really simple answer because it's much easier. How can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when all the time there's a plank in your eye? Why do you do that? Because again, it's much more fun. Right? These questions are pretty easy to answer. You hypocrite, first take the plank out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. This is real. This is what we do because it's so hard to face ourselves. The Sermon of the Mount is not about you. See, we love the mirror and we hate the mirror. We love to think about ourselves, myself, what I have, what I don't have, who I am, who I'm not. And that's where we get into trouble, because if you look long enough in the mirror, you're going to have to judge. You're going to have to get critical. You're going to have to pick other people apart because you're just too ugly. It's just too hard. What are you hunting? Yourself. Because it'll lead to the same place. See, the hunt where God wants us, the hunt is for fulfillment. The hunt is for contentment. The hunt is for eternity. That's the good hunt. And that's the hunt that we all want. But too often, what gets in the way? Me. And that's what he's talking about. And so this is what we do. This is where it gets tough. Have you ever judged? Have you ever been critical? Right? There's a fine line between critical thinking and criticalness. And fourth, unfortunately, I can find this side quite easily. Why do I get critical? Somehow I think it'll make me feel better. Because I'm not measuring it. Because I'm not who I want to be. Because I don't have what I want to have. But you know what the real reason is? I'm not pursuing or hunting what I should be pursuing or hunting. And so when you catch yourself judging, or someone else catches you judging, though they're judging you for judging, so they got to kind of watch that. You really do just need to ask yourself, what am I pursuing? Why am I so negative and critical? Why am I picking on this person? Because once again, chances are you're just in the wrong hunt. You're just pursuing the wrong thing. What should we pursue? It's what Jesus started off with. If you just read this part of the Sermon on the Mount and quit, you win. You win. This is the most important part, other than chapter 8, I said. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed. I kind of like that word. To be blessed. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called sons of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Blessed, blessed, blessed. Our problem is this word blessed is overused. Oh, I got this beautiful house. God has blessed me. I won the lottery. God blessed me. I got this really, really gorgeous girl. God blessed me. It's not there. Wrong hunt. Wrong pursuit. We're blessed when we have these attributes, the heart of God on display. And what are these attributes? You see them elsewhere in the scriptures. What are they called or referred to in other scriptures? The fruits of the Spirit. Thank you, Jonathan. And who's the Spirit? God. Jesus. Not tricky. The fruits of the Spirit are the fruits of God, or the fruits of Jesus. Hello. Peace, patience, kindness, goodness, love, self-control. We can never have enough of those. Are these the things that we pursue? serve or to be served, to take or to give, to initiate or to wait for somebody to come to us. You see the difference? When we're hunting the right thing, when we're hunting the heart of God, we are hunting, we are pursuing mercy, peace, kindness, compassion. If you're pursuing, not worried. If you're pursuing, not being anxious. If you're pursuing, not being lustful. If you're pursuing, not lying, you're going to fail. You're focused on the wrong things. We're really good at this, aren't we? Let's focus on the negative, because somehow that makes me feel really lousy. Whereas God says, no, let's focus on the fruit. Right? Let's focus on the right things. This is what we are to be pursuing. What we are to be going after. What are you pursuing? What are you hunting? Because it just gets tougher. It just gets tougher and tougher. Like, what's that next part? Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces. What's he saying here? There's a number of things he's saying. He's saying, don't pursue people, pursue God. Right? You can't make people pursue what they should pursue. They need to pursue. Don't work harder than they are. Because you know what? They're going to rip you to pieces. Because you are going to become their Lord. You are going to become their, their person to look to. And guess what? You're going to let them down. Guess what? You're going to hurt them. Guess what? You're going to make mistakes. Don't work harder than they do. Make sure that you are emulating as much as you can the right hunt. See, too often we get trapped in trying to fix each other. Too often we spend all our energy and time trying to help each other not worry, trying to help each other not lie, trying to help each other not be spiteful, instead of trying to help each other be peaceful, patient, merciful, giving, caring, compassionate. Do you not think that if we filled up with those things, those other things would have less room to work? It's what are you filling yourself up with? So instead of fixing each other, let's help each other pursue the right things. And the right treasure takes a lot of pressure off of you. And a lot of work off of your plate. And it goes on. Because, the Sermon on the Mount is kind of this back and forth. Jesus will say something really tough, and then he'll say, but I'm there for you. He'll say something tough, and he'll go, well, yeah, just like this. Ask. That's all. And it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds. And to him who knocks, the door will be open. Which of you, if his son asks for bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, we will give him a snake. If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will the Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? So in everything, do to others that you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law of the prophets. And you read that scripture and you go, no, I've asked God for a lot of things, and he's not giving them to me. Yeah, what do you ask him for? Remember, it says he will give you what is good for you. Do you ask him for peace, for patience, for kindness, for mercy? Do you ask him for the fruits of the Spirit, or do you ask him for that raise? Do you ask him for that new house? Do you ask him for that great trip? Do you ask him for, what do you ask him for? He wants to give you what will really help you, and what will really help you is the fruits of the Spirit. That's what will help you. And you know what? Read them. Because some of them, trials will be associated. You don't become patient without facing trials. You don't become persevering. The very word is scary. How do you persevere? Well, you have to go through difficult stuff. Joy. Well, joy is happy on steroids. It's deeper. It sustains. Too much of us pursue happiness. Don't pursue happiness, the movie, no. Pursue joy. That way your circumstances and your situations don't dictate your smile. Right? But it's much deeper, it's much richer. God wants you to have this. He wants it desperately for you, and he will give it to you. What do you ask for? One of the funnest scriptures in the Bible. None of us believe it, though. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. We actually don't believe this scripture. Why? Simple. Because we don't want to be on the broad road. So let's make the narrow road broader. It's much easier that way. How many of us hunt the right thing? You're not going to measure up to the do-nots. You're going to fail every time. You're going to feel like a loser every time. So that's not the gauge. But how much do we pursue? How much do we seek? How much do we go after? How much do we hunt the fruits of the Spirit? How much is that part of our existence? Few will find it. Why? Because of one word. Life. Life happens. And because life happens, we get trapped, we get tricked, we get slipped. We get advertised to, we get fooled, we get, our passions and our desires take over, and our lies that we believe take over, and all these incredible things. It is tricky, it is tough, it is narrow. And even the example of narrow is important, because when you're on a narrow road, you have to pay attention. If you're on your cell phone on a narrow road, there's no grace. Wide road, you might get away with it. But you have to pay attention. Pay attention to what? Yourself? No. I encourage you, if you've heard of Francis Chan, if you don't like my preaching, listen to Francis Chan, and I'll give you the one. It's called Deny Yourself. You'll love it. Thank you, Jason. Jason sent it to me. Starting in minute 19. Go there. It's really wonderful. The stuff he gets away with and saying and preaching from the front is hilarious. I would never. You stone me. But it's enter through the narrow gate. Isn't it weird that the narrow gate would be full of peace, patience, kindness, goodness, love, joy? But that is the narrow gate. That's what we need to pursue. And then, of course, he continues. Because he wants us to get it. That we so easily are tricked into thinking, I love Jesus. Yeah, I go to church every Sunday, man. Yeah, I even read the Bible. But it's not really what he cares about. He says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons and perform many miracles. Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. These are people that live in incredible things. They looked the part, they talked the part, they appeared to be the part. They went to a great church. They were major parts of this great church. They were maybe even elders or deacons or whatever. Jesus says, away from me. Why? Because the heart wasn't right. He says, do the will of God. That's what it says. He says, but only he who does the will of my Father in heaven. So what's God's will? It's not that complicated, especially if you're a parent. What is your real will for your kids? Yeah, get a job. No. That's the superficial one. We do want that, and depending on the age of your kids, it does escalate. But no, we want them to enjoy and to embrace life and to be fulfilled and to be content. We really want that. When they're miserable, we're miserable. When they're chasing things, we're unhappy. It's the same with God. Chase the right things. Seek the right things. Right? Matthew 6, he said, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness. He keeps asking, you will receive. Right? Ask. Seek what? Peace, patience, kindness, goodness, love, joy. Be a giver, not a taker. What did you come here for this morning? Were you hoping that the singing would be great so that you could be inspired? Were you hoping, gee, I hope Ray's not preaching? I want to get something out of it today. Were you hoping to welcome with me 45 minutes? What heart did you come with? One to take? I need it. I need Sunday morning. I'm going to come and suck the life out of everybody. Or did you come to give? Did you come to take or to give? Did you come to serve or to be served? One's going to lead to misery, and one's going to lead to content. That's the Sermon on the Mount. When we come to give, you're going to get what you need. When we come to serve, you're going to get what we need. That's why when you go serve the poor and the needy, you walk away always feeling guilty. Because you gave. It's no different when we come together. If we come to take, you're never going to get what you want. It's never going to be fulfilling. But when you come to give, you start to get in tune with the Spirit of God. And in step with the Spirit of God. He finishes off chapter 7 with this. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. God's way, when we pursue Him, when we pursue His fruit, when we pursue peace, patience, kindness, love, goodness, just repeat it over and over. Is that what I'm pursuing? You build a solid house. That way, when the waves of life, that way, when troubles and trials and tribulations and things don't go your way, guess what? You're going to be able to stand. Guess what? It's going to be okay. But when you don't, guess what? You will be destroyed. Things will not work out. It will be very difficult in so many ways. Now comes the best part of the Sermon on the Mount. When Jesus sat down. When Jesus stopped speaking. Because you really have to ask yourself, the thousands of people that heard him and listened to him, how many really followed him? Because here's the reality, people don't listen to your words. So chapter 8, and that's where Jesus was leaning to, and that's why he was so hard on the people, because I think a lot of the people just came to hear him. Because he is, obviously got some great stuff to say. But what really matters is what happened after that. What really matters, what happens after this. What really matters is Sunday from noon to Sunday at 10. That's what really matters. Those other 6 3/4 days, that's what really matters. And so chapter 8 matters. What did Jesus do? How did he live? How did he walk in chapter 8? What was the first thing he did after preaching the word in a great sermon? Was it go and talk to other people about how great it was? No. In fact, the first thing he did was heal the leper. Went and showed some compassion. He went and demonstrated the fruits of the Spirit. Right? We can hear the fruits of the Spirit spoke at us all we want and read about them. But Jesus, most of what he did was lived it. Right. So he went and he cared for someone that nobody cares for. There you go. Done. Mic drop. Just go care. Just go be compassionate when you walk out of here, and you got the Sermon on the Mount. What did he do after that? He praises someone. Ooh, that'd be kind of cool to be praised by Jesus. Who did he praise? Must have been a Christian type person. No. A centurion. A Roman soldier. And he praises him for his faith. See, Jesus is impressed with faith. What's faith? Trust in him. It's going to be all right. So the centurion says, hey, come heal my guy. Jesus says, I'm coming. He says, no, you don't even need to come. Just say the words and he'll be healed. How often do you want Jesus to come to your living room and fix you? Instead of him just saying, it's done. You go, thanks, Jesus. That's why he praised the centurion. Imagine. No wonder he said, I've not seen such great faith. When was the last time? And it's a super convicting. You had faith like that? It's all good. He's got it. I may not understand the moment or the situation, but Jesus say the words. And that's what's so cool. It goes on, and he heals the sick, and he takes care of the weak and the needy, and that's chapter 8. That's the most important part of the Sermon on the Mount. What do those words, what does that sermon, what does that lesson translate into? Because we are to walk as Jesus did. We are to follow Jesus. In fact, we are to follow each other as we follow Jesus. Right? It's all about that. It's about how we strive to live our lives. And what we pursue and how we pursue. And in the back end of chapter 8, we'll close with this. When Jesus saw the crowd around him, he gave orders to cross the other side of the lake. Even Jesus at times had enough. And he needed a break. Then a teacher of the law came to him and said, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." Jesus replied, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Another disciple said to him, "Lord, first let me go bury my father." Another disciple. But Jesus told him, "Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead." Then he got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. Without warning, a furious storm came up on the lakes, so that the waves swept over the boat. But Jesus was sleeping. Disciples went and woke him, saying, "Lord, save us, we're going to drown." He replied, "You of little faith, why are you so afraid?" And then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." You see the irony? He finished chapter 7 with the man who built his house on a rock. And if you build it properly, the winds and the waves can come, and it won't rock the house. It won't break it. And then he gives a practical example. Because it's easy to go, "Yeah, I got you, Jesus. I'm with you, Jesus. I love Jesus. Needed Jesus. We get big fishes, all about Jesus," until the wave comes. Until that life situation happens. Until that life circumstance happens or doesn't happen. Things don't work out the way that we wanted. Then we cry out, "Jesus, where are you?" He goes, "You have little faith. I've been here the whole time. I'm with you in this. You are not alone. I feel alone. I get it. That's why it's narrow. That's why it's hard. Because you will feel alone. Because why? You're thinking about yourself. And that can become very easy and very real. And the key becomes pursue the right things. Hunt the right things. What are the right things to hunt? What are the right things to pursue? What is the treasure hunt all about? Peace, patience, goodness, joy. Now, we can look at that and go, "Yeah, but that's Jesus." It's true. But he gives us other examples in the Bible, doesn't he? Like Paul. What does Paul say near the end of his life in Philippians 4? He says, "I have learned to be content in all situations." He learned how to hunt the right treasure. How to pursue the right things. And therefore, Paul, who is flesh and blood, 100% like us, who had thorns in his side and had weaknesses galore, was able to be content in all situations. He found the treasure. The treasure is not perfection. The treasure is fulfillment. The treasure is contentment. The treasure is pursuing attributes of God, the fruits of the Spirit. In a couple of minutes, we're going to take communion. What's communion? When you really think of what happened, right? Jesus came, he lived. You got to live. He died. Why did he die? He died for our sins. He died for your guilt. He died for your shame. He died for your weaknesses. He died for all the do not, do not, do not, do nots. He put them to death. They're dead. Fun thing about a dead thing, It can't bite you. It can't even haunt you, unless you believe in ghosts. But the dead stuff can't bug you. Jesus killed it on the cross. Everything that bothers you and takes you over, he killed. It's dead. And then there's the resurrection. What's that? Freedom. Freedom to what? Focus on the right things. Focus on this peace, this patience, kindness, goodness, love, and put our energies there. When we get with each other, when we encourage each other, when we take communion, what do you think about? I encourage you that as you take that little piece of bread and a little cup of juice, which represents the body and the blood of Jesus, I encourage you, I challenge you to think about what is right. Peace, patience, kindness, goodness, love, joy. Think of those things as you prepare your heart to take communion, because that's what communion is all about. It enables us, it empowers us to be able to focus on what is right. Let's give thanks for the body.